welcome to the Sport Podcast. I'm Tilo, I'm your host, and I'm excited to be speaking to you. Let me introduce you to our audience. Celeste is an Australian Muay Thai fighter who fights in Thailand, has an over 65% winning percentage and 37 to 24 record. She is ranked by WBC and made history of becoming only the third ever female bout on a huge fight Muay Thai fighting promotion in Thailand. I'm excited to have her on the show. Let's delve into this and welcome to the podcast. Now, there's so many different things that I want to delve into as an Australian female who fights in Muay Thai and lives in Thailand. But I want to go back to the start. And how did you start fighting? How did it become that you're like, you know what, Muay Thai, that's for me?
I came to Phuket maybe 2013 as a tourist, and I had done no martial arts, no sports whatsoever. And I went to Bangla Stadium, if you've ever been to Phuket. It's like the main stadium in Phuket. A Muay Thai show, and there was a fight there, and it ignited like my soul. That's so cool. And then time went on and I never thought about it ever again. And then I think 2016, someone said I was fat. And so I went to the gym to lose in disguise, you know. And I went to the gym and I wanted to lose some weight and they offered boxing. And I was like, oh my God, I've always wanted to be a famous boxer. But my family, they travel, able to do and then I wanted to do boxing. They said we offer Muay Thai, and then I tried it, and then I was like, oh my God, like I can't stay here and do it. Do you know anywhere in Thailand? And then yeah, I just moved to Thailand.
Wow, that's amazing. I went to one of those shows in Thailand as well, like watching it, spectating. I'm like, that's pretty cool, but I never thought about it. It's like, you know what, that's what I want to get into because it's frightening, some of it. That's amazing that you just took that positivity out of such a comment. I mean, some people would have just crumbled under this. I'm like, oh my God, like it's pretty sad to say something like that. But you channeling that into something of a career, really, that's and going all in. As in, some people are like, you know, let me start boxing. And you're like, oh, screw it, I'm all in. I'm moving. Now, where in Australia were you based at, and what made that move to Phuket?
I'm not based anywhere. So my parents do like, you know, like carnival work. So we travel. We live in a caravan. We don't have a house, so we're mobile. And then I came to Koh Samui first and stayed there for a year and a half, and then I've been in Phuket, I think.
So that's amazing. And so you have that artistic and that lifestyle. You have that, I guess, that ability in running in the family of being sporty and of being engaged in that. Did you get that from the family,
they
or
only work like food and like carnival games? So I like to exercise. Like I had never exercised before I ever done this. Like never, nothing. I couldn't even walk 100 meters without being puffed out.
So you literally went from 0 to 100. Wow, that's incredible. And so how did it come from training to let me actually fight? Can you walk me through that experience?
I did it, and I loved it, and so bad I couldn't even do a star jump. The trainer was like, what are you doing here, basically? And then after I quickly went in the club to one of the best, like not in a boastful way, I don't mean that. I mean, I just improved really quickly because it's what I wanted to do. The trainer believed in me and helped me. And then I said to him, I'm going to leave Sydney soon and work the next carnival, like for the fight. He said, no, oh my God, you have to at least 6 months, like not only attack. And I was like, well, I'm not able to stay here. Like, what can I do? And then that's when I made the decision to move to Thailand.
Wow. That's incredible. And is there an Australian community? I know there's a lot of Aussies that like to spend some time in Thailand, in the Phuket area, Bali, Thailand, etc. Everywhere is where it's warm and nice. The Australians populate. So, is that a community that you got involved with, or how did you just manage just packing up and it's like, hey, here I
Well,
am, and
actually,
this is
like,
my new life?
my lifestyle is traveling, so it was no different to me. And I went to boarding school at 11 years old, so I basically moved home at 11. So I was already independent by the time I moved to Thailand.
And then did you join a gym and that's your community there, or
Oh,
how did you
okay.
even find
Yeah,
that
so the
gym that
gym
you
in
wanted to
Australia,
train
I
with?
asked them if they knew anywhere, and they said, yeah, this gym in Koh Samui. And then I went there, I didn't know anyone, and just like in Thailand, like everyone in the gym, like just accepts you and loves you, and you just become a family.
That's amazing. Now, from that, let me fight to the first pro fight to fighting on the real stage. What was that
Sorry, can you
progression
say it
like?
again?
So from that first fight to the let me fight at the highest level. How did you feel? How did you go about that? What did you need to call it professionalize? How did you go through that whole learning process? And how did you
So
feel
my first
emotionally?
fight was in Thailand. I was in Thailand for maybe, I probably wasn't ready, but I was just like, oh. At that point, I was very excited and I had no idea what I was getting into. And then during the fight, I was like, holy shit, I had no idea fighting hurts this much. I was just clueless. Then after the fight, I couldn't even walk, and I was like, holy shit. And then had a few more fights. I went to Phuket, had more fights. I think I had a lot of people asking me to fight so in Thailand, it's just professional fighting. But to the next level, like you said, I had a lot of people asking me to go to the next level, but I wasn't ready, and then either I got sick or something. But by the time I got there, was my first TV show. I think I had 30 fights by then. And I was just really excited. Like, I'd wanted to do it for so long. And yeah, amazing. And then it just worked out really good for me.
That's amazing. Now, when you say, "Holy shit, this hurts a lot," I mean, I can actually we have a segment that we call Pro Advice, where we ask our readers or our followers to send some questions. I want to follow up with a question here, as in, one of our submissions answers: started kickboxing, very afraid of getting hit. It feels as though it's affecting my performance. Do you have any advice on how to address that, and how did you feel when
I totally
you
understand it.
experienced
I
that?
felt exactly the same. I mean, like when I first started training, I was saying to the people there, like, oh, when I fight, I'll do it the modified version. I won't do the knees or elbows. I don't want to get hurt. And because before Muay Thai, I was a bit of a sook, I guess you could say. Like, I didn't like pain. I couldn't have needles. Like I would bruise very easily. Like I was very sensitive. But like my mindset was strong, but my body wasn't. And then so when I was training, I understand what they're saying. Like I didn't want to get hit. But the thing is, you just have to do it. And then as you do it more, your body just gets conditioned. Now, like you can throw whatever you want at me and I'll just cop it. So the only way you can do it is to do it.
So you're saying you kind of
Yeah.
have to go through the pain, so to speak, in order to experience the pain and in order to get better.
Even like maybe they're worried about their shins. The only way they're going to get stronger is by fighting.
Is there a, call it, safe way to
I know what you're
experience
saying.
the pain?
A safe way, I guess. Sparring with protective gear, and then ask trust harder with you. Key point: someone you trust.
Okay, so find a really good sparring partner. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I would still be worried about
It
getting hit
just,
in the face, so
yeah.
I'm not.
I went
I'm
through
not
the
sure. That
emotions of
was
it.
my.
I absolutely did. And now someone punches me in the face is very different to when I first started.
Okay. Now, when you are like, obviously you have been on the main Lumpini Stadium stage, right? You fought at some of the biggest, most prestigious Muay Thai arenas in the world. How did that feel when you enter the ring? You have like the Thai crowd is, I call it crazy, but obviously in a positive way. How does that feel when you enter the ring? You're like, yep,
Unfortunately,
I'm
there
here
was
for
as
business.
it was good. So I didn't get the full experience. But to be the first ever female athlete to enter that ring was amazing. I mean, at the time, I was kind of just focused on the fight, you know. But afterwards, like I was like, oh, actually, before I was like, I don't care what happens. Like, I know the girl I'm fighting is very strong, and like they want to try to win. Like it's their country, it's fair enough. But I don't care. Like I'm gonna. And I just felt amazing. And the goal from the start, when I first started, I was there was no opportunity for women. The best you could do was a local stadium, and a lot of men had said to me, "Women can't fight." So this is like 6 years ago. Um, yeah, even my dad, he said, "Women can't fight," blah blah blah. And then like he said it over and over and over. One day, I looked him in the eyes, and I know it's not nice. Kicked him. It wasn't even 100%. And then he was like, "Oh my god!" And then he just said it again. And yeah, back to the story. My goal is to show the world women are strong and beautiful, and to create equality. For me to fight there is my goals, you know? I don't want anyone else to go through the footsteps I did where there's no opportunities.
That's amazing. I've seen that on your supporter profile that you are supporting and are very passionate about gender equity. Um, how has that changed? Has it changed over the last years? How has it changed, and what is being done to
Absolutely, it's
support that?
changed so much. Oh my god, like I was the first ever Thai fight female live one. That's the biggest Muay Thai show in the world. To be able to fight on that and for the world to see women are strong, you know, and the Lumpini, like there's a ranking system. Before there was no ranking system for females, and just to be able to fight for belts and get the recognition like we deserve, yeah, it's like compare now and before, totally different, like so different, crazy. Before there was like nothing.
So so media attention as well, and I would assume sponsorship is supporting as well in that area. Now, one aspect that we see is that strong women inspire kids, right? Like you see it, people are looking up for role models. When you grew up and you said, hey, this was, I started my career later, so you probably didn't have that childhood dream of, I want to be a boxer, I want to be a fighter as well. But do you see yourself as, call it a role model for girls to fight? And what does that mean to you? Because I know you have children also highlighted as a cause that
Oh,
you
that
care
makes me
for.
want
So
to
can you
cry.
talk me
That's
through
really
that?
nice. Yeah, I didn't have that growing up, and it makes me emotional. If I could inspire someone, that would mean the world to me. And to show women that no matter what people say, like
Well,
you can
I'm
do what you want.
I mean that's one thing, right? Young girls need these role models to look up on. And I was like, hey, look, she can do it. Maybe I can't be as good as her, but I can still I can be strong and I can support. And I think that's really what we need when a lot of athletes are doing. And I think that's a massive contribution to the world in a way, and to gender equity and equality. I think we've seen that that sport is leading a
Yeah,
big
absolutely.
part of
When
that.
I was a kid, I never heard of a
Now,
famous female boxer. Oh,
And there are some really strong Australian boxers now making their being on the
Absolutely, yeah.
world stage as
100%.
well. Now, we talked about it hurts when you get hit. We talked about some safety measures, as in get a good sparring partner. But one aspect that we see in fighting is concussions, and they're more and more in the news in different sports. How has that been? How is the sport treating concussions and brain injuries? And what are some of the safety measures that are
I don't
taken
know
there?
what to say. I don't have any information on this. Sorry.
Okay, so there isn't as much in the Muay Thai fighting. Isn't as much of a discussion around
No.
head protection, so to speak, yet. Okay. So we see that in American football where they really run into each other and slam their heads against one another, and there's this big controversy. So I wanted to check in whether that's part of the discussion yet, because you obviously hit yourself. You get hit pretty hard as well.
Oh, sorry, I'll just
That makes
add
a lot
one
of
thing.
sense.
There was a discussion
Boxing
2
is
years ago. It just came up on my Facebook
yes.
memory. And there was a men only, and no women were included in Thailand. And they were thinking about, I don't remember if it was banning elbows or making women wear headgear, because they had seen photos of beautiful women with cuts on their face, and they're like, we've got to do something about this. But this comes back to equality. Why does it matter if you're good looking or a woman? Like, why isn't that being discussed for men, you know? So I had put up a post saying, like, this is acceptable. He asked women, why is there no women in the meeting? Like, that's not okay. Like, I know the consequences, and I'm okay with that, you know?
And that's a really good example of a lack of equity and well, seeking input from those impacted by it. I totally agree. And it's really sad that we consider, it's like, all right, let's consider safety, but only because some women may not be as what's considered a standard of beauty.
It wasn't about
rather than,
brain,
hey, let's protect someone's brain. That's interesting. Okay. Well, hopefully that moves forward, and I good on you for speaking up against that. Now, boxing is a world sport. Muay Thai is still really big, but it's more centered around specific parts of the world. What is the growth of Muay Thai fighting? Where do you see this going in the future?
When I first started, I don't think it was a world sport. People didn't watch it. Now there's such thing as one championship. They're doing amazing things for Muay Thai. It's getting well known. I mean, UFC was before, like they were first, and everyone knew what MMA was. Now I can see Muay Thai growing and expanding and becoming, you know, as UFC. Like, it's getting really popular at the moment. I see a lot more countries practicing it. And now that there's like a second, like Thai people, they've always had it, it's their sport. But now there's foreigners that have trained since they were 21, but now they're 50 and they've had kids now that are like 19, 20. So now there's a generation coming in, which I think will help a lot.
Okay, so you're saying that let's call it a second generation of foreign fighters is helping to make it more of an international, and it is very big. So that's no problem. That's certainly no disrespect to the sport, but obviously, as you said, MMA and whether it's the UFC and so on, this is really drawing these massive global audiences. Have you considered? If you considered thinking about, you know, well, maybe I should be fighting UFC, maybe I should be in one of those world stage competitions.
I considered it for the fact of like the money side and stuff like that, but my heart's in Muay Thai, and I mean, one championship's around now, you know, it's growing as much as UFC. Like, I think there's big possibility for that.
Okay, so staying focused on one championship and being being really focused on the Muay Thai career, which totally makes sense. But you, as you said, there's certainly a lot of money in
I mean, if the
in the
opportunity
sport, in the
came
big
up or
fights.
something, like I wouldn't say no, but at this point in time, definitely Muay Thai.
Okay, so you're not actively pursuing it. I want to walk you through a quick poll booth where we're looking for really short answers to yes no type of questions to tell our audience a little bit more about you. So poll booth, quick fire round, striking or grappling?
Rap music.
Country music versus rap music?
Australia
versus Thailand? Working out inside versus working out outside? Knockout versus win on points? Watch highlights versus watching the whole fight? Okay. Adidas versus Nike? Cardio versus weights? Kicking versus punching? And last and most importantly, Thai versus American food?
That was like, oh yeah, okay.
Good. Yeah, I could have Thai any day of the week, so I'm quite jealous of all of of many things in relation to Thailand, but Thai food, I totally agree. Now, one aspect to think about when we talk about food is, I've seen that you posted about over 1,500 days sober. What's that mean to you? And congratulations. But what's that mean to you?
Like, I'm sort of like have an addictive, so I was very addicted to alcohol. Like, it was the thing I did in my life. And then thank God, like I found Muay Thai and I could direct it to something healthy. I mean, sometimes I do train to the point I get sick, but I'd rather it be addiction to Muay Thai, addiction to alcohol. And now that like, no judgment to anyone listening or yourself, anyone who drinks, like you could do it, but me now seeing other alcoholics really makes me like want to help, because you have to help yourself. And I just have people that are addicted to alcohol.
Very sad, and we see cigarettes being banned everywhere, but alcohol is certainly a very bad drug as well, very addictive as well. So
the same as other things.
Yeah, it's a social side that we, as society, consider. Yeah, this is totally normal, and obviously a lot of money in this business, so companies are not very keen on stopping it. Now, congratulations on that. How did you go about that? Did you just one day to the next said, that's it, or was that a process? And how did your peer group react to it?
I had been overseas to America to work, and I was drinking every night. The social aspect. I came back to Australia. I worked another carnival, drank. Then I went to Europe and traveled the whole of Europe and drank. And last night of my Europe trip, I was vomiting like uncontrollably, and it wasn't because I was drunk. I think my body was just shutting down. I probably had liver issues, but I didn't go to the doctor. I'm just guessing. Yes, exactly.
Very Australian of you.
And I was like, I'm sick and tired of feeling like this. Like, I don't want to feel like this. I think it wasn't until I found Muay Thai that because I could direct my energy to something else. And then I was just busy with training, and I didn't want to do it anymore. I mean, I did a few more times after that, but then when I was hungover, I was like, why am I doing this? And my peers didn't react well at all. They were all like, please drink with us, please drink with us. And I was like, guys, like, I don't want to, please don't ask me. And I was afraid to go out with them because they would peer pressure me. So I even have dreams that I go out with them and then I drink. And I'm like, oh my God, why would I do this? I'm so stupid. Like, I still have nightmares about it.
Wow, I can see the peer pressure being such a difficult part to, like, yeah, I'll have one beer. And I mean, I personally, I'm originally German. I lived in Australia. I don't mind a beer every now and then. You know, one beer leads to 5 beers. And then 5 beers, you're like the next morning, as you said, like, oh my God, what did I do? And as a professional fighter, you
No,
can't have
not at
those
all.
mornings,
No.
I guess.
It would just ruin your
So,
routine,
like,
your momentum. Like, it's just not good. I mean, some people do it, but for myself, I couldn't.
yeah, no, I can absolutely see that. And as I said, all the utmost respect for sticking through
Yeah.
that. I know it's very
Thank you.
difficult. Now, COVID has obviously impacted the whole world, particularly as a contact sport. How did you go about training during that time, and how is it now? Is it now different to
So
how it was before?
COVID in Thailand, it's a tourist destination. It was very busy, many people coming through. Like, there was a lot of money in Phuket. Like, everyone had a job. For myself, like training, I could fight. Like, sometimes I'd fight 2 times a week. Like, that was my income. Yeah, and I mean, that's how I racked up a lot of fights. And I really enjoyed it. So happy. And then COVID came, and I was kind of like, oh, the lockdown 2 weeks, and I was like, oh, after 2 weeks, everything will be fine. And then I was like, I'll just take like I need it, and then I did, and then the lockdown just got extended for like 2 years. And luckily, my boyfriend trained me, so I could train as the gyms were closed. I wasn't able to train, and then slowly, like, the TV shows opened up, and there was just no audience allowed. And luckily, I was training. As soon as they said go, I could go. Whereas a lot of people had put on weight, lost their fitness, and unfortunately, I understand how, but like, I just knew I had training for myself to be mentally okay. Now everything's starting up. Everything, the fights are open, gyms are open. Tourists are a little bit coming back. For the Thai people to see them go through COVID was extremely sad. Like, a lot of people lost their jobs, a lot of people committed suicide, a lot of businesses shut down. It was very horrible. Whereas in Australia, the government would take care of you. Here, they didn't have access to that.
Yeah, that certainly, that social system in Australia is very strong. They're very supportive, but very sad to hear and to see people struggle through that, and awesome that you have that support system around you and as well. So it's good to know when times are hard,
Yeah,
that we
exactly
can
right.
rely on some people. Now, one thing that we see, we have that.
Oh yeah,
I actually saw you have a bird.
yeah.
Can you like bird named Ninja? How did that come about? I
I
love
had a
that
bird as a
story.
kid, and it was my best friend. And then here, I always wanted to get a bird, but I was like, oh my God, what if I go home? And then I was like I live here, I'll get one. So I got a bird, and I have a motorbike, a Ninja. And that's how I named him. And I love him so much. He's just my best friend.
And that's so cool. Bird and a motorbike, both are ninjas. I mean, that you can't make this up. This is awesome. One thing I saw on your experience store on the Sport Hub, you offer a behind the scenes access, as in, hey, here's a video behind the scenes, what's going on. I was always wondering, what is going on with the fighters behind the scenes, as in, do you not, like, I mean, obviously you can't just be best buddy behind the scenes when you actually, next thing is you go and try to punch someone, but how is that feeling? How is that camaraderie versus rivalry?
Like, people kind of think like you because of UFC. They have a lot of media of this person and this person fighting, but in Muay Thai scenes, we're like all best friends, even if it's rivalry. In the ring, I learned that the hard way. I was nice to someone, and then they did the dodgy on me, and they won. But do that again. So yeah, there's no like bad feelings or anything when you're not fighting.
Okay, that's good to know. As in, there's a really tight knit community then around it. But as you said, you see some of the.
Oh yeah.
It's oftentimes for the show, right?
Yeah,
You
'cause
need
people like
the
it.
media needs
And that's
something.
because you got so many viewers. Like people love that.
Yeah. No, I'm excited to follow along, and now that TV is on and we can follow along on your next fights. What's the next fight that you've got coming up?
I can't say, but it's very big.
Okay. We'll make sure that
Yeah,
we
I will
promote
tell
it
you.
once
Thank
you're allowed to say. And what are some of the goals for the rest of the year
Yeah,
for you?
well,
Obviously, win that
I've
big
been
fight.
manifesting, and then if you tell people it won't come. I can't tell you all details, but the goals are very big.
Okay.
When they're completed, I'll happily tell you.
All right. All right. Well, I will follow up on that. I'll hold you to it. I want to say thanks for joining us at well, it's late for you now, but it's been awesome to get to know you a little bit better, learn about your sport. Also for our audience that wants to connect with Celeste, make sure you connect on all of the socials and the Sporter app. She's got some amazing experiences there, like a personal training plan, Zoom call, behind the scenes access, product testing, all of those things. So check her out there. We're going to link all of it. Thank you for joining us, and thanks for sharing all of your insights with us.
I love what you guys are doing for the sport. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and good luck on that big fight.
Bye.
All right. Bye.